Welcome to My Favorite Bitch, where we talk openly about the good, the bad, and the oh my fucking god ugly of raising dogs, and sometimes other non-canine pets, including the human ones. We might talk about poop, and we might swear, so fair warning. Thanks for joining the pack. Now let's get this ball rolling. For a game of fetch, of course. Hey everybody, welcome to My Favorite Bitch. This is where we share honest tales about the good, the bad, and the have I got a dog hack for you ugly of raising dogs and other pets. I am your host, Beth Campbell. Thank you for joining me today. In case you didn't know, I'm going to throw a little shameless plug here today. In addition to being the author of the corporate book for the 21st century, Where the Hell is My Bacon?, which is about the true story of about a corporate team who found their mojo through bacon, I also host another podcast called Café Grit, which is all about finding your grit, finding fulfillment, dealing with corporate bullshit, dealing with life bullshit. So check it out if you're so inclined, especially my rants of late have been corporate related. I do have some friends going through some tough times. So, but it's not always corporate related. So check it out if you would, please. I would much appreciate it. But here we are at the My Favorite Bitch podcast. And today I'm going to talk about a great life hack that I've been using with my dog Moxie for the past 6 months or so. So just to catch up a little bit, because it's been a minute. We are in early spring, really. It's only just a month into spring here in Central Virginia, well, in the whole Northern Hemisphere. And it is been lovely, very, very warm. Our pool is already open. It's just the middle of May. Our pool's been open for a few weeks now, which is great. I just this week got into the pool. It's still a little cold, but I grew up in Michigan with the Great Lakes, and I've been in and Michigan has a lot of other, just not Great Lakes, but just regular lakes, small lakes. And I've swum back in the day in not even back in the day, even just a few years ago in Lake Michigan, some pretty cold temperatures. So I think I have a pretty good tolerance. And once you're in the water, your body adjusts and it's fine. And frankly speaking, Moxie likes it when someone's in the pool with her. So I've been getting into the pool just this past week, but the pool's been open for about 3 weeks and Miss Moxie is loving it. I'm telling you, those of you who have quote water dogs, you get it. Your dog does not need to be taught. They just, literally jump right in. So the pool's been open. Just before the pool opened, my husband and I had decided this year that we were going to do some landscaping in our backyard. We live in the mountains. Everything's sloped, inclined, and our backyard was no exception. The pool and the patio kind of coming off from the house were pretty level, but two sides of the back side of the pool were very severely sloped. So it was really unusable. There really wasn't anything you could do back there. The slope down to the fence line. And we don't have a huge yard. We have about a half of an acre total, including the front. So the pool, and it's a pretty big pool, it's 20 by 40 in-ground pool. So there really wasn't a lot of space that was usable on really 2.5 sides of the pool. So we decided this year we were going to do something different and spend some money on some good landscaping. So we got this great guy. His company is Pro Quality Property Maintenance here in Central Virginia. Brandon Turner. Brandon, you're awesome. And Brandon and his team put us in a retaining wall. It kind of extended our level pool area a bit. And then it sort of evened out the steep grade in the back of the pool. So behind this retaining wall that now extended our level area, we put some sod. So if anybody's out there, maybe I don't know if you call it sod in other countries outside of the US, but sod is just grass. So squares of grass, nice, good, thick, healthy grass. And And that was great, right? It was, it's just almost flat now and it's just beautiful and it's going to be really nice little patio for my husband. But one of the dilemmas that we had was how do we keep Moxie, our 1-year-old lab, off of this new grass? Because if you don't know how sod is put in, it's either put in rolls or in our case in squares, right? It's just basically like a foot by foot or maybe a 15 by 15 foot square of grass, and they tile it all over the dirt, the prepped dirt. And you have to kind of baby it until it roots. It takes 2 to 3 weeks for it to root really well. You have to water it every day, and you can't do a lot of stuff. You're really not supposed to walk on it, or certainly you don't want your fucking pewter land whale to dig in the dirt or in between the tiles, or pull, or as I know she would, pull up the tiles and just run around the yard with her prize. So we had to figure out a way to keep her off of the sod. So there were, just based on the configuration of our lawn, there were 3 main access points to the sod because, again, remember, part of this is a retaining wall. So it's about a 4-foot drop, and we figured we could manage keeping her from jumping off of the 4-foot side. So we had to manage these 3 access points to the sod that ran behind this retaining wall. How are we going to do that? It's outside. There's just, we had some old fencing that we put around the pool last year, but it's really cumbersome to put up. And so we were thinking, and I thought, well, why don't we try using the little flags that we used when we set up her fence? So she's got an electronic underground fence in the front yard that she uses with the e-collar, as many of you probably do, right? You have an eFence. And so now I'm going to give you a little bit of background. So for those of you who've never used an eFence, when you get your eFence set up, a company, generally speaking, they'll come out, they'll dig their little trench, their little hole, and put the wire in. We opted for a wire, underground wire. There's other versions of it, but that's what we use. And then they put flags up on the border, little flags. Ours are white, but they might use different colors, but little flags to mark the border where the eFence is. So that is a visual cue to your dog. When your dog is training, they put the collar on and your dog knows where the border is. And then they start to associate that flag with the border, with the little beep that comes in on their collar. And if they don't step away, they get a little muscle stimulation. So we've used eFences for quite a few years. A whole other story about that. I'll put that in a different podcast. But when Moxie was about, 8 months old, 10 months old last year, we had the eFence installed and used the little white flags, and it works brilliantly. If you're out there, I'll just say this. If you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, it would never work for me, eFence will never work. I'm not an eFence guarantor, but I will tell you, I never thought an eFence would work. I had a dog with a very high prey drive. I didn't think it would work. My wonderful husband, Sean, convinced me to get an eFence with our previous dogs. And to my skepticism, put that in check because it worked like a dream. So I will say is it's cheaper than a real fence. And if you're saying to yourself, I don't think it'll work on my dog, I said the same thing and it worked like a dream. So anyway, so we've been using the eFence for, 7-8 months now. We no longer have the flags up, but we kept the flags. And my friend Corey Joe gave me this great idea last year about these flags, because you basically have these flags up when you're training your dog for at least weeks. Some of ours, I think we still maybe have 1 or 2 up on a certain part of the fence. But you basically have them up for a period of time, and your dog associates the flag with the border, with the beep, with the muscle stimulation. You take the flags down. We kept ours. Last fall, when we were closing up our pool, we weren't sure how we were going to keep her out of the pool. The previous year, when the pool had been closed, we actually did use a physical fence. We bought a series of fencing from Amazon, and it worked great. But as I said earlier, it's very cumbersome to set up and heavy, and it's just a pain in the ass. So we said, okay, we're going to try using the flags that we used for the eFence to put a border around the pool, in hopes that she would associate the flag with the beep, with, bad things happen. It's a muscle stimulation. People don't send me hate email because it's like, zapping her. It's a muscle stimulation. But it's not comfortable. They don't like it. That's why it works. So there's no wire around the pool, but we thought, well, maybe the flag would be enough. Now, when we train our dogs, and this, we're on our third eFence right now. We through various houses that we've lived in. Every time we've trained our dogs on the eFence, we've used a code word that we learned from the very first eFence company that installed our fence in Michigan. Our first eFence experience. They used a code word, and I have to say it quietly because my dog's in the other room and she might get triggered if I say it. But the code word is bad flag. Bad. BADFLAG. Bad flag. So as we were training all of our dogs, before they get to a higher muscle stimulation, if needed, when you first train them, you try to pull them or lead them to the flags, and then we would say in our training, very harshly, bad flag. And that associated again, and now we have a word associated with a visual cue, the flag, with something bad will happen. So we used a combination of the physical visual cues of the flag around the pool with the code word around the pool. So even though there was no wire, there's no beep, there's no muscle stimulation that happens because this infrastructure is just not there. It worked like a fucking dream. All winter long, all we did is we just kind of bent the little flags. We just had them left over from our eFence. We bent them and sort of slid them under the pool cover so they stood up. So all around the pool were just these white flags. Didn't deter our view of our, at the time, nasty lawn. Didn't deter our mobility. If we were walking around near the pool, there wasn't a big fence in there. The wind, it was a beautiful solution, and it worked like a dream. She would not go near the flags. If her ball would go even close to the flags, nope, she's done. She's not going near it. So I also tried this with some flowers that I'd planted last fall. And I didn't want her getting in there, and, she's like a freaking bull in a china shop. She's like literally a manatee on land. And she is just large and in charge. So I put some flags around these flowers that I planted. And again, she didn't go near them. So fast forward to recently, when we were trying to figure out, after our landscaping, how am I going to keep this rhodium rhino off of our new sod? And I thought, the flags. We'll pull out the flags. So the flags from the eFence were a little worn out, but here's another great hint for you dog owners. You can go out and you can buy those little flags from Amazon. So I bought a little pack of 100 for next to nothing, same color, white. And when the day that our sod was installed, I put the little white flags around the areas where she could have been able to access. So there were some open points between our patio railing and between the house and between our fence and the retaining wall. And I'll tell you what, it worked again. Like it was fucking magic. If I had a Harry Potter wand with true magic, it would not have worked better than this. She did not go one step into the sod. It's been, it was a couple almost 3 weeks maybe that we had the sod down. And I will say we did have the pool that open, so she was probably a little distracted. But this is a zoomy girl. This is a girl that would go around. She didn't give a shit. She'd go back before we got the landscaping. She'd go back in that sloped area and she would shit. She would bury her pig ears or her bully sticks. She'd go back there for long enough that sometimes we'd be like, "What's she doing behind there?" We'd have to go check on her. She wouldn't go anywhere near the flags. If a ball went even just inside the flag or even near the flag, she wouldn't touch it. It worked so well that yesterday it was time for us to mow the sod for the first time. It had taken, it was latched on, but it grows pretty fast because you water it every day. So my husband said, "Well, should we take the flags down or leave them up?" And I said, "Look, let's just take them down. We'll keep them handy. And if it becomes problematic, if she's running through there like a bull in a china shop, then we'll put them back up." It worked so well that once we took those flags out, she would not go back onto the grassy area. She would not do it. My husband was down there. He's got a little patio down there now that the landscapers put in. And he was christening his new fire pit yesterday. She wouldn't go. I should have nothing to do with it. I tried to lead her down a couple of the access ways, which is very easy. It's basically you're just walking from the old shitty grass that we had onto the new sod. She wouldn't do it. She's like, "Nope, not doing it." She just would stand on the retaining wall looking over, watching us down in this new great area. So finally I put a leash on her. It's amazing how, I don't know if it's just that she feels safe on the leash or that she has a leader that is going to, take care of her. So she feels comfortable. As soon as I put a lead on her and just kind of walked her, she was like, "Okay, great. And she walked right onto the grass, just like we do in our front yard. We've got an eFence. And she knows if she gets too close to it, it's going to zap her. But if she's on a leash, it's different. She walks right up the driveway and we don't have any problems. So same thing. I put a lead on her, let her back onto the new sod and the new grassy area. And then when she came out, again, she wouldn't go back down there. My husband went back down there to do something and she wouldn't do it. So I had the leash sitting there. I didn't even put it on her. I just grabbed it and started walking down into the sod area, down into the grassy area. Excuse me, I just burped Mexican food. I apologize for that. So I didn't even put it on her. I just let her down and she followed me right down. And within a few times, my husband was hanging out down there again, working on his new fire pit. I left and went upstairs and he told me that, yeah, she very quickly got used to it. But it worked so well that if I had not put that lead on her, I don't think she'd go down there. I think she would have just said, "Nope, that's not my territory." So I'm not saying that this is going to work with every single dog. Some dogs are stubborn and some dogs, but I'm telling you, it's magic. So for those of you who have an eFence and who've trained their dogs with the flags, do not discount the power of the eFence flags. I have heard of people, my friend was telling me that she knew somebody who used them at a campground because their dogs understood that the flags were to be avoided. So they would set a perimeter up in a campground or on a beach. So their dogs would not go past that perimeter because they're flags. And I'm telling you, the bad flag phenomena, my friends, it's real. So anybody who has an eFence, if you still have your flags, just think of ways that are there areas where you want to keep your dog away from? Are there places that you're like, "Oh my God, I wish that they would not dig there"? Could you possibly train them with these flags? If you don't have your flags anymore, go onto Amazon. Just look up, staking flags or garden, whatever, yard flags, and you'll find them. Get yourself some like me. I got 100 of them because fuck. I mean, I can't even, the possibilities are endless now. I mean, I was amazed at the pool. I was less amazed at the flower bed thing because it was kind of in a corner and but the sod thing, like that she wouldn't even go back there when me and my husband were both back there. That was powerful. So there you go. There is my dog hack for the day. Use your eFence flags that you've trained your dog on if you have an eFence. Use them to your advantage in other areas of your yard where you don't want your dog to go. Boom. You're welcome. You're welcome for that fantastic tip, which actually isn't my tip because it came from my friend Corey Joe. So that you can thank Corey Joe, my friend Corey Joe. All right, folks, that's it for today. Just wanted to share that cool thing that happened and how we experienced it and how you might be able to feel the magic too, the magic of the flag. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening and being a part of the My Favorite Bitch world. Let me know if you have some fun pet stories. I'm really looking to get some guests on the show. Jackie, I'm talking to you. Other than that, I'm going to now let you go and take a nap in a nice, warm, sunny spot, or maybe go play some fetch or have a nice treat. Take it easy. Thank you for joining My Favorite Bitch, where we don't hold back about what it's like to raise that little fucker of a pet. We hope you had fun. I'm your host, Beth Ann Campbell, and you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook as TheBean67. That's TheBeann67. And also on Instagram as Moxie Blue Yule. That's my dog's site, she insisted. I'm also on LinkedIn as Beth Ann Campbell, that's Ann with an E. And check out my YouTube channel, Beth Ann Campbell, where you can find this podcast and other fun videos on the playlist My Favorite Bitch. Remember, we are not trained dog professionals in any way, so please consult the real experts and do your research on anything you hear on this program. We barely know what we're doing. Now go give your pet some snuggles, and we'll catch you after a good nap and some tasty treats. My Favorite Bitch is produced by Beth Ann Campbell and is a product of Beth Ann Campbell, LLC, all rights reserved. Go fetch, Moxie! Good girl!